understand that you and that other are one. You are at the quantum level, you are connected, you are all one. And that if you didn't have somebody else to compare yourself to, then you would have all the talent in the world. If you'd never had a chance to look at somebody else singing, and your singing was all that you had ever heard, that would be the greatest singing in the world. That's what you have to understand. That's where you have to go with it. You don't have to buy into this notion that my talent is based upon how it sizes up to others. That's what we have sort of pushed on people in our culture, but it isn't something you have to buy into. All right, another area of your internal personality that you want to shift around is your IQ. I mean, we have come up with this belief that there is such a thing as an IQ, and we put every single person, in addition to putting a Social Security number on every soul that shows up on in our country, and we now have to put it in there according to the IRS before they're even 12 months of age. Otherwise, they don't count. They're not real. You don't get to deduct them, so that number gets stamped on their forehead. There's another number that gets stamped on everybody's forehead, metaphorically, and that is their IQ and how well they do on all of these various tests. And then we lock ourselves into this belief, and we say to ourselves, well, I'm average, and this is where I fit in, and I can't do this, and I'm so many standard deviations from the norm. And we have courses on this, and in fact, I used to teach those courses when I was teaching measurements at the university. But I've come to know and believe that your IQ is just something that IQ tests measure. That's all you can say about it. And let me give you an example of how powerful this IQ is and how valid it truly is. I was once invited by the people who compose these tests to take one of the exams because they were going to measure my reading skill, intelligence. And the test makers had used several paragraphs from my book, Your Erroneous Zones. I was the testee, which is an interesting choice of words. And I was instructed to read the paragraph and then answer 5 questions that were based upon the interpretation of this material that I had written. So I read the paragraph, and then I proceeded to answer the questions, and I received a score of 80% on the 5 questions. I got 80%, which isn't bad. That put me at, I got a B. That was my IQ. The only question that I failed to answer correctly was number 5, the intent of the author. So my IQ was lowered because I was unable to identify the intent of the author when I was the author. On another occasion, I was a college student. I took an exam in my English course on modern American poetry, and the instructor told me that my interpretation of the poem was incorrect, and consequently he lowered my grade considerably. But I found out that the poet was alive at the time, teaching at a large Midwestern university, and I decided to write him and give him my interpretation of his poem. He sent me back this beautiful response, and he told me that my views on his poetry reflected his own, and he took the time to write me a beautiful, detailed letter. So I took his letter and my interpretation and all that back to the modern American poetry instructor that I had at the university, and he said, your grade stands. He said, sometimes poets don't really know how to interpret their own poems, and that my IQ in poetry interpretation was lowered, and that number stood on my transcript even to this day. Someplace it's on there. Now, we do this all the time. We sit people down and we give them these exams, and we tell them that your whole life is dependent upon whether or not or how well you do on these exams. You can get into various schools, you can get into law school, or you can not get into law school based on how you do on these tests. And then we've got a whole new industry that teaches people how to take these tests. And you find out that when you take these courses and you learn the techniques in the game and you learn the rules of the game, that you can improve your scores dramatically. And all of it boils down to that it's a money-making enterprise and it's a business. And the people who make the tests are trying to convince us that these things are valid measures. And in fact, if you implant in yourself a notion that your limitations are based upon some artificial number from an exam that is being administered by people who use this as a way of making profits for themselves, then you are buying into the big lie. You can accomplish anything that you want, and there's no number that is assigned to you. You can assign a number to your physical body, but there's no Social Security number, and there's no IQ attached to your soul. And that's where you create real magic. You can put real magic into your personality, and by real magic, I mean you can begin to experience miracles within your own self. And one of the things that I'd like you to really be aware of is that your personality, the human being that you are, that is listening to this tape right in this moment, has been shaped by the invisible part of you, much more so than by the physical part of you. You have bought into a whole lot of misconceptions and a whole lot of lies, that the limitations that you experience in the physical world are the same as the limitations that you experience in the non-physical world, in the immaterial world. And I want you to take a look at your own personality and recognize that your personality, your level of talent, your IQ, the habits that you have, the enculturated ways that you have of behaving, and the customs that you've developed are all things that you have bought into as limitations. The fact that you're shy or you're nervous or you're afraid is a personality variable. But it's something that you don't have to buy into if you don't want to, if you decide to go at it from this invisible domain where this organizing divine intelligence operates and creates the molecules that literally creates the intentions that creates the physical world that you are. You can change your talent levels around to believe that you're restricted by something passed on to you through a DNA, through some kind of genetic transformational system that keeps you from being able to play music at a level you would like to, or sing the way you would like to, or play basketball as you would like to, or dance, or swim, or perform in an athletic way, is a whole lot of nonsense. There is no limit to what you can create in your mind in that invisible organizing intelligence. So let's take a look at just a few ways that you can go about taking some of these personality variables, some of these things that you have come to believe are embedded in rock, and see how you can shift them. The first thing you want to do is to remove all of the doubt about what kind of a person you can become. Doubt is an ingredient in your life. There's two ways to learn: knowing or doubt. If you doubt something, you literally affect the outcome of it. So you've got to constantly remind yourself that all that you have become in your life is the result of your thoughts. This is a mental world we live in. And if your thinking is based on doubt that you can't change something or become something else, then that will be your reward. So rid yourself first of doubt. After you have rid yourself of the doubt that is literally an ingredient in your life and your way of learning, you have to stop using sentences in your material world which reflect what it is you do not want to be. If you call yourself or believe that you're limited or clumsy or fearful or stupid or weak, you're going to be blocking the very miracle that you want for yourself to manifest. You've got to begin a new process of affirmations that reflect a consciousness of confidence and strength by talking about your unlimited capacity to learn any new skill. You've got to stress how capable you are in both conversations with others and in conversations with yourself. Remember that what you think about and talk about expands into action. So you want to reaffirm constantly, I can make this happen, and do it with your children, and do it with your coworkers. I can create and be the kind of person I would like to be. I have always chosen in the past to believe that I am shy, or that I'm nervous, or that I have only average intelligence, or that I have mediocre talent. I've chosen to believe that, but now I'm going to just remove the doubt and try to visualize for myself that I can affirm that anything that I want for myself is possible. And then you want to learn to stay focused on what you're for rather than what you're against. What you want to do is think about what you want to expand for yourself in your life. If you want health, if you want harmony, if you want love, if you want bodily ease, then you've got to think that way. You can't be focused on what you don't like about yourself or what is missing in yourself, because if what you think about is what expands, and you're thinking about what is missing, then what's missing is what you have to act on, and that will be your experience in life. So you say things like, I will not think of myself as ignorant or talentless, because then you're thinking about ignorance and strengthening the mental equivalent of limitations. Instead, use your mind to focus on images such as, I possess all that I need to fulfill my dreams. If anyone in the world has ever manifested a miracle, then the universal law that has permitted that is still on the books. It hasn't been repealed. I can continue to do that myself. I am not a mistake. I am a divine necessity. I have a heroic mission. I am going to manifest and change